Hello, I'm Devin Ogle. I will be presenting Team 10's implementation of the CCSE project management system. The other people on this team are Darosh, Tony, Woody, and Emery. So for this project, the department proposal outline was as follows. CCSE has a need for a repository to manage all of our projects, capstone, contract for hire, and research. The Dean would like a repository for faculty and staff to be able to use and better equip us to manage our contract for hire, capstone, and research projects within our college. And our team's goal for this project and this implementation was to build a user interface and a database that allows the user to create projects and generate reports in a simple and easy to consume manner. 3 milestones for this project outlined by the proposal was 1. Database development, 2. User interface, and 3. The ability to input and run reports. We reached all 3 of these milestones. We developed our database early on. Our user interface was developed throughout the semester, including the front end and the Node.js server handling it. It was all developed and finalized throughout the semester. And the ability to input and run reports was also done throughout the semester as well. So this is our database design. We have several tables here. Only one of these tables does not interact with the others, and that would be the user table. This table is used by our front end to determine what users are allowed to access our website. And then the rest of this database is contingent on the project table in the bottom right. The project table, of course, houses information about the project, specifically title, whether or not they have a NDA, a type of the project, whether or not they're sponsored, the department that project is for, the point of contact for that project, the status of that project, and the start date. The 3 tables that are linked to this table using a foreign key are the sponsored table, the member table, the update table. The sponsored table is the table for housing information about the company sponsoring projects, which is then linked to the contract table, which is mostly used to allow us to display documents to the front end to the users. For each project, if they exist, the members table is to allow us to assign students or professors housed in the student or professor tables to a project. And the update table is to allow the user specifically to append text updates to a project that are timestamped. So from this point on will be screen layouts of our website. This is the login page, which allows users to access the existing accounts or to create new accounts with their own information. The login and registration page look exactly the same, and they operate as a normal login and registration page. So upon successful login, you'll see this page here. This is our home page, which allows the users to sign out or navigate to the following pages: the reporting page, the create project page, and the update project page. In the create project page, you'll be greeted with the form, and this is the form responsible for project creation. This form changes dynamically depending on specific fields and the values selected for those fields, and that will be displayed in the following slides. So here's an example of how this form changes dynamically. So if you'll notice that the sponsored field was turned to true, and then a third column was displayed, a sponsored column that houses information for the company associated with that sponsor. If you'll notice the difference here, we have 3 columns, a sponsored column, and as before, we did not have that column. Moving on, another dynamic element of this form is the additional member button. This button, when pressed, adds in another group of fields associated for each user, specifically the net ID and member ID. In this form, each field basically represents a column in the table. So for this first column, we have our project information. So like you saw in the database diagram, this associates with the project title, whether or not there's an NDA, capstone, and so on. And upon creation, we can now at our reporting page and pull back information based off of what we submitted in our project creation. So on our reporting page, we can search projects based off of their project title. That will be entered into the value field. And once you submit that, you'll be greeted with this page here, the results page. The results page pulls back and displays information from each table associated with the project. It does so in a very clean manner. If any values pulled back from the tables are empty or null, that will be displayed as such in the following tables. In the website, these tables would be displayed following as a list, so you could just scroll down through all the tables, but since it's in a slide format, they each separated into their slides. You'll see here that we have our, I guess I should start with this one. This is our project information table. Of course, pulls back the project information for our project. This is just a mock I've made for this presentation with some information. You'll see how it's displayed here, the title, NDA, so on, dates, the phone number for the point of contact. We have our sponsored information table. The start and end date would be associated with the contract. And since that was not implemented yet, that would be null until that is done. We have our approval, our point of contact once more for the company, for the sponsor. We have our member information. This is myself. So this is what is pulled back when you add in the net ID and type of user in the member information for the project creation. So on this mock, I put in a net ID 123, and I set their type to student, which is displayed here in title, and it pulled back my name, my email, which was housed in the student table. And here we have our update information, which is displayed with the net ID of the person who did it, or created it, I should say. That is not currently working. However, it does display the date, the timestamp at which that update was created, and the content of that update. And this is our update project page. And this page is what allows the user to append updates to a project based off of their project title. So if they wanted to add an update to a project, they would insert that project title in the project title field, and then they would insert their update into the input field and submit it. On submission, it would be appended into the update table of the appropriate project, and will be displayed in the results page when that is queried. This is the current structure of our AWS project, or diagram, I should say. This is the AWS project diagram. Basically, the structure of our project in AWS. So a user would send in an HTTP or HTTPS request, and that would hit a firewall of sorts, specifically a security group, which is a list of IPs and types of protocols associated that are allowed to access our environment. If that person sending in that request is included in that list, they can access our environment. So if so, they are sent through, and then they'll hit our Nginx technology. And what this is a load balancing software. This will allow this project to grow and handle large amounts of users if need be. But also adds in a second layer of security, as it also lists out specific ways a user can access our environment, what ports to go through, what types of protocols are allowed, and sorts of things like that. So it will be accessing a Node.js virtual server through port 3001. That virtual server is responsible for hosting our web pages to the user on request, and also handling queries and responses from the database as well. So it's responsible for querying to the database and parsing out the responses from it and hosting that in our web pages to the user. So of course, when you're dealing with something that's web-facing and interacting with a database, you want to make sure it's secure. So we've implemented some security in the beginning, because it's much easier to start out doing it than to go back and append it in. So for our password hashing, we used a library called bcrypt. It's a pretty popular library, very powerful. Basically, we just it's responsible for hashing our passwords for secured login and account creation functions. Our Nginx, which I've already laid out, is essentially a second firewall that lays out the allowed connections to our specific environments. And then we've also implemented a token system. Upon logging in, a user is given a generated token. It is checked at each page to ensure that it is not expired and that it is not manufactured. If for whatever reason there is an error on that token, the user will be presented with a forbidden error. They are not allowed to access that page, and they will have to return to the login to log back in and get another valid token. And that is checked, like I said, each page, as well as each time they attempt to query to the database. This is our project schedule. We adhered to this pretty well throughout our semester, and we actually finished kind of early, so that was nice. That's the end of the slides presentation. So from this point on, I'll be demonstrating the website. I'll go ahead and sign in as a standard user. Log in. We'll go to create project. If you notice in the top, we have a token. This token is passed from page to verify a user. And if let's see what happens if I alter that. I'll put in some random characters and press enter. You'll see that token is no longer valid. I have a forbidden error, and I will have to return to the login page to get back. So I'll go back, I'll log in, and go back to that page, and see what happens if I try to put in a project title that already exists. So this is the Hello World project title that I created for this presentation. It already exists. So if I submit this, I will be greeted with an error page saying this project already exists. After a short time, you'll be redirected back to the home page. So let's create a project that I know doesn't exist. We'll say Hello World 3. Give it a net ID of 123, which is my net ID in the student table. I'll give it the student type. I'll leave all this information blank, just for demonstration purposes, because we see what happened, or see what this looks like in the slides presentation. I'll create this project. I'm redirected back to the home page. I'll now go into reporting, type in my project title. If I submit that, we'll be directed to our results page with all of our information. You'll see our title here, Hello World 3. Our NDA is false. We have our project type and all that information. I scroll down to the bottom. You'll see my member information, which is what I passed in with the net ID. And there's my name, my title, and my student email. And then we'll see down here that the update information is null. However, we will change that. We'll go ahead and submit an update for this project. Let's go here. We'll say Hello World 3. And we'll pass in some information to say Hello World. And submit that. And now let's go back to reporting and pull back our information. Let's see if that update was appended. It was. You'll see down here in our update information, we have the net ID, we have the date created, and we have the content, Hello World. You'll notice that the date created does not match our current date and time. That is because this date creation is based off of the database. This is done on the database side, and our database is actually hosted in a UTC standard time zone. So this is actually, I believe, 5 hours ahead of us, maybe more. So that's why it is in a future date and time. That will conclude Team 10's presentation of the CCSC project management system.